Thanks, Fiona. All right, welcome guys. Good afternoon and welcome to another session of An Afternoon with a Scientist, hosted by the Natural History Museum of Jamaica. I'm your host today, Karine Parks, the Assistant Education Outreach Officer. And today we hope to have a fun-filled session for you guys, and I do hope that you guys will learn something. knew about mosquitoes and all of those nice things. Our host for today is Mr. Gavin Campbell. And we're at a late start, Gavin, but you know, technology and all these things online. So we had a little difficulty to start the program today. So we had to resend the link to persons. The persons will join a little bit later throughout the program, right? And don't worry, we'll be uploading it to our YouTube page. So we'll have additional viewers for the program also, right? All right, so before we start, just want to whisper a word of prayer for us to have a successful session. So let's go. Heavenly Father, as we're about to have another session of an Acting with the Scientist, we just ask for your intervention throughout this program and let everything be smooth sailing, even though despite the difficulties that happened before, just let everything be successful for today. Amen. All right, so without further ado, I'm just going to ask Mrs. Cole, Eartha Cole, or Education Outreach Officer, to introduce our guest speaker for today, and so that we can learn a little bit more about him before he comes to us. Okay, Eartha, you can go ahead.
All right, thank you, Ms. Parks. So our distinguished presenter today on our program is Gavin Campbell. He's a PhD candidate in environmental biology at the University of the West Indies, Mona. He is a widely traveled and passionate entomologist, focusing his studies on aquatic and terrestrial animals associated with temperate ponds, and particularly the biological control of mosquitoes. The Natural History Museum of Jamaica, a division of the Institute of Jamaica, is pleased to have him as our guest today. Welcome, Mr. Campbell.
Hi, thank you so much for that, Eartha, and thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to share the presentation with you and answer any questions you might have. So is someone going to share, or should I share mine?
You can go ahead and share, Gavin.
Okay, no problem. All right, can you all see?
Yes, we're seeing.
Okay, good. All right, so if everyone is ready, I'm just gonna jump in. So as mentioned before, my name is Gavin Campbell, and today I'll be presenting to you on Notonecta indica, which is a particular aquatic insect. I'm gonna be focusing on its life history and the biological control of mosquitoes using this particular insect. So as mentioned earlier, I'm a PhD candidate in environmental biology, and I study temperate waters, and those are ones that have water at certain times of the year, but do not have water at later times of the year as well too. And I'm based and working from the Life Sciences Department at UWE Mona in Kingston. So I study entomology, which is the study of insects, and ecology overall, which is the study of interactions between organisms and their natural environment. And this is a picture of me in my study site, or at my study site. I'm collecting some water samples, just walking through, and there are a bunch of birds around just waiting for something to drop so they can eat it. So the outline of the presentation will be as follows, from introduction all the way straight to recommendations. So first I'll be introducing temperate waters, which are water bodies that have a recurrent dry phase. So as I mentioned before, they have water at some point of the year or some point of a decade, and then they're dry at another point as well. Oh, hold on, someone there? Okay. So they're typically understudied environments, particularly within urban areas, because people think that they're mostly wastewater systems and they're just dumped up land. But they do have many predators, which include dragonflies, beetles, and backswimmers, which are the focus of the study today. So Notonecta indica is in a family of insects called the backswimmers. The proper name is Notonectidae, and they are called backswimmers because when they're in the water, they kind of swim upside down with their faces up and their backs kind of to the surface. They are the largest backswimmers in Jamaica, and they feed on mosquito larvae and pupae, as well as other insects and even other individuals of their own species as well. So starting with the mosquitoes that they're going to be feeding on with the subject within the topic, in the top left picture, you see a bunch of small black specks on a piece of white paper. And each of those specks is a mosquito egg. So every single one of those is one single egg that will turn into a mosquito. And as you can see, there are hundreds of those that are produced from about maybe 3,000 to 2,000, 3,000 adult mosquitoes overall. On the right, you see the, hold on, this is blocking it a little bit. So on the right, we see a mosquito larva. You can see an elongated body overall, and these are the forms that people normally associate with the aquatic phase of mosquitoes. In addition, there are also mosquito pupae, which are the top left here, and then the mosquito adults, which most people associate with the aerial flying types of mosquitoes that we do see. Is someone drawing on the screen? Yep. Just gonna continue. Hopefully you can see the main points of the session. So talking about the baxomer itself, we have the eggs of the individuals. These are the young eggs. There we go. So these are the eggs before they actually become individuals. And following on, we have two nymphs. So as soon as they hatch out, they become these small nymphs. And you can see they're already ready feeding on mosquito larvae right here, working together as a team. Then we have, as they get older, they get bigger. This is another nymph at a later stage. Another nymph, this time eating a mosquito pupa. And then we move on to the adult forms. So the adult forms can really vary. So this one looks a little blue here with a little yellow, and this one is just fully clear overall. So this is their dorsal surface, and this is their ventral surface, and this is how they normally look while they're in the water. So they keep their backs down, which is why they're called baxomers. This is the setup that I used to help control my experiments. Over here, we have a cage of mosquitoes. You can see all those small black dots. Those are individual adult mosquitoes feeding and laying eggs as they go along. And each of these containers has different mosquito larvae within them, but also some of them have predators. There were several thousands, hundreds of thousands of mosquitoes that were processed throughout this experiment. So it was a lot. So going into the meat of the matter, what I wanted to do for my study was to investigate the life history of the baxomer Notonecta indica. I wanted to quantify mosquito suppression or mosquito consumption throughout its life history. So as it goes from young nymph to adult, how much does it eat per day? And also wanted to investigate the effect of density on mosquito suppression. So if there are more mosquitoes, will they eat more mosquitoes overall? The methodology, which is the way of going about a particular experiment, was affected by the use of Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, which are the vectors for yellow fever, chikungunya, Zika, and malaria, and they're responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths each year. The adults were kept in large cages, as shown before, at an air temperature of 28 degrees and humidity of 75%, sorry. The larvae and pupae were reared in jars of tap water, and they were fed on shredded oats, so the same kind of oats that you get in your supermarket. They were eating those ones. And they got 12 hours of light each day and 12 hours of dark each day. The adults were fed on blood every week, and the eggs were stored until they were needed to be used as larvae. So this is just a little warning for anyone who might be a bit squeamish. The following will be a bit scary. So this on the left, both pictures are my left arm. And on the left, you can see small little red dots on my arm. And those are adult female mosquitoes that have fed on the blood that is in my hand. And I'm going to use that blood to make their eggs that I need for my experiments. And then on the right, we have the aftermath. You can see a lot of bumps on my hand, but don't worry, after about a few hours, they all went down. And it wasn't as itchy as you might have thought. So when it comes to the baxomers, I collected adults from Life Sciences here at UWI, and then I reared them in jars of tap water, of dechlorinated tap water. And then I fed them mosquito larvae and pupae every day, and just to see how many they would eat each day. This was done throughout different stages from nymph all the way to adult, and mosquito suppression or consumption was documented overall. Mosquito consumption within their life history was The notonectids were reared individually throughout their developmental stages, and they were provided with 180 ductile larvae every day. So that gave a density of 200 larvae in 1 liter overall. The control was established. A control is a way of making sure that whatever results you get are not affected by something else. So you do the same thing just without the predator to see if they naturally die off on their own or if they're being killed by the predator itself. The dead larvae and pupae were recorded every 24 hours and then replaced with new, fresh larvae. When it comes to mosquito suppression, adult notonectids were given different densities of larvae, and these were at 200, 400, and 800 mosquito larvae per liter overall. Looking at the results of life history, we see that for the first stage, which is the egg stage, from the egg is laid all the way from up to its hatching, there are different points at which different developmental markers are shown. So on the 4th day, you see a small red eye spot developing. Then on the 5th day, you can see some more body definition. And the 7th day, you see full definition. And then on the 8th day, they hatch out and they're starting to swim around within the water. The duration of the life stage of each of the different levels were varied throughout, with the egg having about 8 days overall. And then the adult stage, or the stage before the adult stage, having 8 days as well too. And most of the other stages were either 4 days, 5 days, or 4.5 days. So these were pretty much constant overall. But moving from egg is laid all the way to adulthood, it takes about 33.5 days to develop into a full adult. When it comes to death associated with the different individuals, we see that the different stages, as they go from egg to different developmental stages, more of them are lost. So not all of them that are actually hatched make it all the way through to adulthood. So of those that hatched here at 100%, only 6% of them made it all the way through the 6th stage and then go to adulthood. And death was commonly associated with different transition of different stages. So as they move from, let's say, N1 to N2, they would shed their little exoskeletons, and then that is the point that they would die, either while shedding, just before shedding, or after shedding. And these have been found in similar research projects as well too. So mosquito suppression. So as mosquitoes move through their life history, they tend to eat more individuals. As notonectids, move through their life history, they tend to eat more and more mosquitoes. So in N1, they ate 7, N2 and 3, they ate, so N is just a nymph, right? So N2 and 3, they ate about 11. And as you go on, you see that there are more individuals being consumed. And that is at a density of 200 mosquito larvae per liter. So in one container, there would be 100, and that would be how many they would eat. So they'd eat 39 out of the 100 within their particular container as adults. So an adult pairs, while they did give a little bit more, it wasn't significantly different. So mosquito consumption and density. So working with the adults only, we see that at higher densities, so when there were more mosquitoes in the container, they were actually consumed more. So when there were 200 mosquitoes per liter, they had 39 per individual. When there were 400 per liter, they had 85. And when there were 800 mosquitoes, they ate 118. So it's usually less than about 40%, but they eat more depending on how many are available within their particular containers. And when it comes to the pairs, you can see that they're roughly similar to the individuals. So 200 versus 200 here, 39 versus 45, and then 118 versus 133 overall. So the recommendations that we would make, or I would make from this research, is that mosquito rearing, that notonectid rearing in the laboratory is not feasible. Only 6% of them actually make it through to adulthood, so it's not as efficient as we would like. So the best bet would be to protect and integrate wetlands within urban areas, which are the main habitats for Aedes aegypti and Aedes albopictus mosquitoes, which are some of the more deadly mosquitoes in our environments. Mosquitoes notably avoid oviposition in water with predators, so they don't lay their eggs where there are predators because they know that once those eggs hatch out, they'll be eaten by those predators. So they'll try and fly around to see if they can find some other water body that does not have any predators so that their kids have a chance. they'll prefer they prefer to lay their eggs, therefore, in temporary water bodies. So because the temporary water bodies didn't have water, say, a week ago, those wouldn't have predators in those waters. So when it just rains and it fills up, then they can just lay their eggs without those predators coming in and destroying their kids' chances of survival. And dispersal predators, therefore, would be important in mosquito control. So Notonecta indica, which is the backswimmer that we've been talking about throughout this whole presentation, is very dispersive. So it will fly around whenever there is a lot of rainfall, trying to find new water bodies. And then that, with the mosquitoes already being there, would be a really good food source and a way of controlling mosquito populations overall. Given the work that has been done so far, there's more research that is still needed to be done. So there is work that needs to be done on the group effect versus the individual effect on density reduction, as well as other mosquito predators, and also predator-predator interactions, because some predators do eat other predators as well too. So there's much more for us to find out, and much more that you can help out with. So I really do look forward to working with you, if not now, then in the future. This is a list of references. This is where you can find me. My website is dragoninflight.com, and you can find me on ResearchGate or Twitter at Dragon Ecology. These are some references. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I love answering questions, and I look forward to hearing about them.
Okay, thanks, Gavin, for that wonderful presentation.
No
Guys,
problem.
because we started late, and Zoom only allowed us to have this session for 40 minutes, and the minutes will be up in 2 minutes. So I'm going to ask you guys to just rejoin the session so we can close the session properly. And if you guys have questions, we can answer those questions when you guys rejoin. All right, so just asking you guys to rejoin right now.
Okay. I see some really good questions here though, already. And I have some stories for you. Oh, go ahead.
Good afternoon. It's not a question, but I have I saw on my screen a while ago that the session is extended. So Miss don't have to ask the person to rejoin. They can go ahead and ask a question. I just came in and saw that. So
That's
they
awesome.
don't have to rejoin. They can just ask the question. I'm sorry. I wanted my class to join, but presently we're still having a session.
Okay, no problem. I understand. It will be recorded, so you can watch later on and ask
Okay,
questions.
That would be great. Miss, can you send the recording to me?
Yes. Can you just leave your email in the...
All right, I will type it in the chat. I will type it in the chat.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
See some questions in the chat.
Okay, so guys, you can go ahead and ask your questions. Let me read some of the questions since the time has been extended.
So the first one that I'm seeing is, are backswimmers exotic? So there are different species of backswimmers around the world. The one that I talked about within the presentation is not exotic, it is native. It is found in Jamaica. It's been here for many hundreds of years, and it's been in other countries as well around. So they're pretty natural, pretty Jamaican overall. The second question right after that I see from Jazara is that it's asking if they're poisonous. So slightly yes. So when they do feed on particular organisms, they have some venom within their beaks. So they use beaks to pierce the mosquitoes. So mosquitoes get to feel how it feels overall. And their beaks do have venom that helps to paralyze and kill those different prey items that they do eat. So they paralyze and kill the mosquitoes. And I have actually experienced them. So because I've been working with them, I got bitten by one. I think on the very last day working with the very last specimen, I got bitten, and it was quite painful, but it's nothing to go to the hospital about. If you are really allergic though, like be aware, try not to handle them too roughly, because it can be a bit dangerous. But overall, quick sting, and it's over. But there are some other aquatic insects that have much more painful bites, so watch out for those ones. So I see another question from Jazara. Love the questions, by the way. How did the backswimmers get Notomona. So they are flyers. So because they are, even though they are aquatic insects, they also have wings. So they can crawl out of the water and fly around and find new water bodies overall. So that's how they get around. And they're probably in some water bodies near you too. They prefer usually larger bodies of water. So you can check those and see if there are any around for your area.
Gavin,
Yes.
is it possible for you to show on your slide again the back
Oh, yeah,
zoom
no
for
problem.
those who are joining?
Yeah, no problem. And everyone can still see my screen, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
Awesome. So scrolling back up. So I'm gonna just focus on the adults right now. So these are what the adults look like. Trying to maneuver the screen. All right, so this is what the adults look like overall. On the left, you have one showing its back up and another one showing its back down. And then on the right one is another one with its back up as well. So those are the back swimmers. How did they get here? Okay, are their best source of nutrients oats? So the mosquitoes pretty much eat anything that is small and particulate within the water. It could have been oats, it could have been food from different sources overall. It could have been plant matter, it could have been animal matter, but I've seen several papers use oats, and oats is a very affordable and easily accessible source of food. So I use that for it and just to keep everything standardized overall. But whenever they're in water, mosquitoes will help to clean up the organic matter in water. So they do have a little bit of benefit there as well. Great, so Eartha has a question, awesome. Oh wait, never mind. Okay, no problem. All right. When I was young, you could see the back swimmers in the diving pool of the stadium. Yeah, they do that. They do fly around and land in pretty much any water that they do see, thinking that is a good habitat for them. Some of them do die from that, but more of them actually get around and find food, so it works out overall. All right, those are all the questions that I'm seeing so far. If anyone has any more, please feel free to ask.
All right. Hi, Gavin. Is Elizabeth?
Hi, Liz. I remember you from the meetings.
Yes.
Yes.
Are these two different species, a blue one and a white one?
No, so these are actually they're different morphs of the same species. They can be quite varied. And normally when the one on the right is what you'd get just after it hatched out. So they're a little bit paler just after hatching out, and then they develop color about a day or two after becoming adults. So the first one on the right just hatched out, and the ones on the left, they're a bit older, about maybe 5 to 10 days. So they have their color developed in their wings.
Can you tell me how many different species we have in Jamaica, or is it
so far,
yeah.
So there's only one species of Notonecta within Jamaica, which is this species Notonecta indica. But there are other species in the family Notonectidae, but they're all the other genus that they're in is Brinoa, and there are about 6 species documented so far, but there could be more. So we need more people to find out and do the research so we can see exactly what we have here. But this is the only Notonecta genus that we have in Jamaica.
Okay. I'm not really used to seeing this pretty blue one.
Yeah.
I see like a darker black one.
Yeah, it's the same one, and they are quite variable in their forms. Excuse me. So there are some of them that have just fully white wings even when they're mature, and they have some of them that have like fully black wings overall.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Happy to help. I see some more questions. Do backswimmers only live in Jamaica? So no, backswimmers do not only live in Jamaica, but they live almost in every country around the world, except the freezing cold ones. They will vary their activity when it comes to cold times. So some of them can remain frozen under ice throughout the winter, but most of the time they'll just get up and leave to somewhere that's more feasible for living when it's super cold. And there are none in Antarctica for obvious reasons. Okay, next question. Do you have different species of backswimmers? Yes, there are several different species of backswimmers. There are about, I believe there's 7 genera worldwide, and each of those genera has different species. So there are more than 30 To give a number would be difficult because I haven't really gone into the actual speciation of them, but there's definitely more than 30 different species worldwide. And do they only feed on mosquitoes and humans? Oh, do they only feed on mosquitoes and humans? So they don't feed on humans. The Notonectas don't specifically feed on humans. If we are troubling them or we're manhandling them too much, they will bite us, but we're not their prey target overall. They do eat other insects though. So they eat not just mosquitoes, but anything that pretty much is swimming in the water. So they eat little fly larvae and little worms that you normally see in the water. And they can also eat each other. If they're limited in food resources, if there's not enough mosquitoes to eat or not enough flies to eat or fly larvae to eat, they'll eat each other. So yeah, they're savage. And if asthmatic, can you die from back swimmers? I don't think it's as severe as that. Definitely do be cautious. Watch anything that develops if you do get one, but I don't think it's as severe. So you can be pretty much okay. Are the babies poisonous, or are the babies more poisonous than the adults? So the adults are actually more poisonous because they have more venom that they can deliver within each sting. So yeah, it's the other way around. I love the questions, Zara. All right, cool. Anyone else have any questions?
Me again.
Okay.
It's the best. You're finding them mostly in running water or stagnant water, fresh water? What's the? I know
So
you were saying, yeah. Tell me, yeah, but let me hear again.
Yeah, no problem. I don't think I had mentioned it before, but they're in stagnant water only. So they can be in very slow flowing streams, but most of the time they're going to be in stagnant water because they need consistency. They need the stability to be able to swim around very easily. So you won't really find them in heavy, fast flowing streams or heavy rivers, but you can find them in shallow streams that really are slow moving. I think there was another part. Was there another part of your question? Oh, I guess she's muted. Okay, so we have more questions coming in. I love questions, so thank you. If you drink the water that the babies are in, will it kill you? No, they won't kill you. There are actually some species, some groups of people that eat them specifically. So they will grind up their eggs and catch the adults and their babies and grind them and turn them into flour. So they can be a good nutritional source for different peoples overall. I forget the name of the people in Mexico specifically, but they call it aquaculte, something along those lines, which means water butter, something along those. So they use that to help supplement some of their diet. So they're a good source of protein for those people. And they've been used culturally for many, many years overall. So it's not just important for the environment, they're important species for cultures as well. Can mixing the gene of the back swimmers with a tarantula? Those won't mix. Unfortunately, as much as we might try, those will not mix. There are certain mechanisms in place that prevent those kinds of species mixing. Is there a way to encourage them? So they are very dispersive. So once there is a place for them to go and rainfall triggers them to disperse, they will go to that place. They'll normally fly around within the environment just after rainfall, looking for new places. Some of them will die, but once they have a good habitat, they will jump in, they'll lay their eggs, and their kids will start growing and feeding on the mosquitoes within those environments. And then the adults will do the same. They're normally triggered by rainfall. So you won't find them just outside, like wherever you go, but whenever there is rainfall and then a water body pops up, or there's already a water body there, then you'll find them there. And you find different species as well. So not just Notonecta, but also Buenoa. And if you would like, I can send you guys some pictures later on of some of the other species as well.
Yes, sir.
Yes, awesome. So are any possibility to use them as a biocontrol for mosquitoes? So yes, there is the possibility of them, but as seen through the research, lab rearing is not a feasible possibility. So only 6% of them that actually were hatched make it to adulthood. So the die-off is quite high overall. But I had collected some individuals from another site and they had already hatched out in their natural environment. And of those, about 70% of them made it all the way to adulthood. So there seems to be something within the natural environment that offers them some kind of benefit to keep them alive and going, as long as there are no other predators around. So the best we can do right now, until we understand exactly why they die off so much in the lab, is to preserve their natural environments as much as possible to keep their populations up and running. Do they live in springs? So they can live in springs if the springs are really shallow and slow moving, but most of the time they're going to be living in ponds and pools overall, or lakes as well. Can they sting multiple times? Yes, they can. Do not try to anger them. Whenever you're handling them, try to not handle them too roughly, because they will start there. So even though they are swimmers, they have a really good jumping ability. So they can like jump from here to here to here really quickly. So you have to be able to handle them well. And if you do, try to avoid their mouth parts, because that's where they sting from, not their butts. Do they die because of the overwhelming poison in their eggs? So no, the eggs aren't necessarily toxic or poison. They produce it when they become nymphs, but they don't die from those overall. They're used to it, they develop it, so they don't die from having it in their systems. And no, if they sting once, they can sting again. So yeah, and the proper term technically would be bite, because they use their mouth to do it. If they use their butts to do it, they will be stinging, but since they use their mouths, it's called biting, even though it's still like a pointed apparatus that they use. They do come in packs. They can come in like several groups of even hundreds at times, but sometimes whenever they're flying to new areas, they can be only like, say, a few of them that occur each time. So they'll probably come in waves at times. So from my sample side, I've seen them come in waves. So say the first batch of 5 comes today, then the next batch comes 2 days later or after that, and then keep doing that overall. Yeah, if you remove their biters, they will die, because their biters are also their food source. So if they can't eat anymore, then they will die. Yes, they can fly. They can crawl, they can fly, they can swim. So they're pretty diverse. Are there stings more painful than bee stings? Nah, bee stings are worse. So if you have to choose, then pick the Notonecta, pick the backswimmer.
Okay, guys, we have more questions coming in.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just going to take 2 more questions and then we'll wrap up. All right, guys?
All right, so apart from this one, how old were their young bee to fly? So they take about 33.5 days to make it from egg to adulthood. So that's the earliest they'd be able to start flying. So when they're 33, let's call it 34 days old. Some of them later, some of them earlier, depending on how they grow, how much they eat, and their different environmental conditions. But 34 days around the right time. If they're born in cold regions, they will die. Will they die? So some of them will die depending on the severity of the cold, but a lot of them that live in those regions, they have particular adaptation. So they know when to decrease their activity in relation to different temperature changes or different light changes. So they can either move to another warmer area, or they can stay within the environment and just kind of eat less, move less, do less work, and just stay chilled for the entire winter period. And can you own one? Yes, you can. I owned several hundred of them back in, when was it, May to July of last year when I was doing the experiment. Some of them are pretty, thanks Dion, some of them are pretty calm. They'll stay within their containers, but some of them will fly out. And I remember about 3 of them in their containers. I remember 3 of them in the containers, they flew out and I have no idea where they went. Like I looked around the entire room and I could not find them in the lab. So I was just puzzled as to where they went. But so it goes. Some of them are calm, some of them are a bit more adventurous. And can you teach them to dance? No, I cannot. I cannot dance, therefore I cannot teach them to dance, unfortunately. But maybe you can.
All right, guys.
Not trouble.
Okay, we have some pretty curious students here today.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
And have a lot of questions.
Yes.
All right, so guys, we're going to wrap up today's session. I want to thank Gavin today for a wonderful session. It was really informative and I enjoyed it, and I can see from the chat section that others enjoyed it as well. And we just want to thank you for, making yourself available to share with us your knowledge. And I do hope that persons will learn something from it. And, it gives them the opportunity to widen their hope in choosing their career,
Yes.
those nice things. And don't think that scientists only sit, in a lab and
Yeah.
just do all those nice things. So
Yeah.
thanks, Gavin, for sharing
Yes.
with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Guys,
It was a pleasure.
yes, we're having some well done, Gavin, in the chat section
Yeah.
from other
Thank
natural
you.
history staff. I want to thank natural history staff for always being here
And
with
support.
me to, host my program and all that. They're always just there to support me. I want to thank my team for helping me with the chat section and to arrange all of this today. And let it be a success. We still have questions, Gavin, but
Yeah, I'm reading them and I
yeah.
want to answer them so badly.
it not gonna work today, guys. Gavin, we have to let Gavin go. But guys, don't worry, we have another session coming next week. That's November 3rd. And we have another presenter for you guys. Also fun presenter. I'm not going to disclose the topic with you guys. It's a surprise and it's very informative like this one that we have today. You guys will have the questions coming again. So I will share the link with you guys for you to join us next week, same time, 1 o'clock. So we can have a wonderful time. All right, guys. So see you guys next week. You guys can free to
Bye,
leave your
man.
email address
Bye,
in the
everybody.
chat and
Miss, I will
contact
hide
you guys.
my in the chat.
Repeat.
Someone's still drawing on the screen. Oh, I can stop sharing now. There. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye,
sir. Bye, sir. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Enjoy your day. Thanks for coming again.
Bye.